photograph some people, it was to try and start a movement wherein we can break down barriers between places where silos traditionally existed. I noticed that the architects hang out with the architects, the photographers with the photographers, the entrepreneurs with the entrepreneurs, the DJs, the restaurateurs. It's very, very segmented. We've got there's an undertone of sarcasm in our city. There's an undertone of passive-aggressive, and I wanted to do the little part that I could to break some of that down and look to a future where we can actually cross-pollinate and drive culture not as distinct units but as a whole. And so I open with Charles's note there. So that's what the book looks like. And in there are, as Rick mentioned, there are more than 106. I'll get to the reason for that. There are more than 100. There's 106. I'll get to the reason for that later. But everybody gets a spread, and which brings me to on culture, the thing I just read, and just a second here. Some of the visuals. I thought that the idea that this is a visual project, it deserves showing a handful of the pictures. This is Laura Peace Kelly. I want to tell you a little bit about it. The photograph, it's an amazing undertaking, to be honest with you, to photograph 106 people. I had no idea what I was setting myself up for. I thought when I did the first couple, I was like, oh yeah, the first one took 3 hours. I should do a little math, a couple hundred hours. I should be done in a couple months. Well, 3 years later, I figured, I was like, why couldn't it be the Seattle 40? No, but I sat with each person for a long time, and the stories that I have, the interactions with everyone, have really created relationships that last a lifetime. This person, the story here, this is Laura Peace Kelly. She's a spoken word poet, and it was very hard to take a bad photograph of her. She's expressly beautiful, and she was very excited about having her photograph taken. And her hair is really, really stunning. She probably changed clothes 10 or 15 times. She brought a whole vintage wardrobe, but she had a blast. It was really fun. And it wasn't always like that. For example, the Blakes, they showed up. I think they got dropped off by their friend because they didn't have a car. They're a rock band, and the picture on the right, I think, is one of my favorite from the project. So you can see they've got like literally holes worn into their boots and their shoes, and it was through the course of photographing them that I noticed these holes. And this photo shoot, I should say, took place over the course of about 12 hours. And it was somewhere around hour 6 after cocktail number 6 that I noticed that they had holes in their shoes, and I was like, guys, why don't you just kind of lean back? And I shoot in a really relaxed style, often just talking to my subjects while I'm pulling the trigger, asking stories about their experiences, and trying to get unmoments rather than perfect moments. And I was talking to them. I said, hey guys, why don't you just kind of lean back and show me the soles of your boots? Well, as I said, it was like six cocktails in, and snow there on the far left. I love this. It's kind of like fine, worse off, really worse off. And this is a kind of a moment, and it's a moment right before he fell into the set and tore the whole thing down. So, in true rock star fashion, they tore it to pieces. You guys know of the Atomic Bomb Show? It's one of Seattle's most awesome burlesque troops. It was completely otherworldly to photograph them. On occasion, I would bring a couple people into the studio to get photographed on any given day. I would have someone in the morning and someone in the afternoon, and sometimes they crossed over. Sometimes we did it intentionally to get certain people to meet and try and break down some of these barriers. In this case, I'm talking, I don't remember who was there. Do you remember? Someone was there as they poured in, and I remember sitting there having a conversation. We just wrapped up, and like 14 women walk in with just trunks and wigs kind of half on and over their shoulder, and they walked in normal clothes, and they just turned their suitcases inside out and got naked in my studio and just started changing while I'm wrapping up with this other person. It was absolutely amazing. It's very hard to finish a conversation with someone. There's 14 naked women and one naked man over in the corner changing. So it was incredible, and the photographs, I think, really capture that. That was a very lucky moment, a lucky capture to get nothing exposed that shouldn't be exposed. Greg Lundgren, I don't know if you know Greg. He is reinventing how we think about death. He has a death boutique up on Capitol Hill. He's also a restaurateur, owner of a bar, an amazing guy. And you might notice the picture on the right is black. And I said earlier, everything was, or I'm about to say, I can't remember where I am in this thing. Everything is the same. All of the lights and everything were fixed. And I did that in a very reductive style, as reductive as possible, so it's just about the subject. Black and white on white. But people ask, well, Chase, well, how do you answer this question? And what that is, that's a misfire. That's one time where I was taking in the middle of shooting 50 pictures, one of the strobes didn't fire, and I kept that in the book because it's a happy accident, and that's in many ways what culture is, what a city is, and I thought it was really important to have that be a part of the project. You may or may not know Lynn Shelton, and I keep saying you may or may not know because Seattle's kind of a small place. My hope is that as you take a peek at the book, hey, how's it going, guys? As you take a peek at the book, that you probably know 10 people, maybe personally or maybe through a friend of a friend. You may have heard of another 30 or 40 people through reading the local papers or magazines, and there may be 30 people who go, I have no idea who you are, but I want to know you. And that was really part of how I curated the project. So if you don't already know Lynn Shelton, she's an amazing filmmaker and won the Spirit Award at Sundance year before last, which was basically the jury prize for any film. Amazing. She is quite shy, and at some point in this middle section, something I said basically turned her loose and she started dancing. And so I've got, in the book, there are a number of pictures of her doing the same thing here. And then this is at the end when she's feeling rather embarrassed again. So it's a whole kind of transgression of Lynn Shelton. This is Megan Jasper. Megan is well known for the thing that she doesn't like being well known for, which is well, she likes being well known as the vice president of Sub Pop Records, but she doesn't necessarily like being well known for the person who punked one of the reporters at the New York Times. Do you remember what it was, Sean? It was New York Times, yeah. So the New York Times called it the height of grunge, and she was an intern. This is a beautiful story. Intern turned vice president. She actually, the founders, they do a lot about Sub Pop, but she really is the driving engine behind it. The New York Times called when she was an intern, and she put them on, was saying, oh yeah, we've got this new dictionary, it's the grunge dictionary, and we call these people, oh, you know what a he-bop is? And the reporter's going, oh, he-bop, no, what that is? Like, oh, that's a girl that thinks a guy is not cool. And so she rambled on, and the story actually came out in the New York Times. Completely falsified information, and it was at Megan's doing it. She's still very much like that, although she's the vice president. And her dog, Vito Pepperoni, her dog. So again, some people showed up with things that they wanted to be photographed. Michael Searath, that's one of my favorite images in the whole project. In the gallery, I'll mention it later, but we blew the images up to 44 by 55. It's a stunning picture at that size. He was with the Northwest Film Forum for a long time, and now does affordable artist housing up here on Capitol Hill. And many of you may know the Blues Scholars, arguably one of the leaders in Seattle's hip hop scene. And Sabzi here, I can't say anyone's a better friend than another, but a good friend, and also with another very good friend of mine, back there, Ross Sion. He's looking around, I'm not going in common market.
Stephen was asking me for an autograph. I'm sorry. We'll do that later.
Right. And you guys, if you do purchase a book tonight, there are a handful of people who are in the Seattle 100 that would be very happy to sign your books, and if they won't, you let me know, I'll post their own.